Welcome to Cyprus Diaspora Uncovered. What if 3 to 5% of your profit is quietly leaking and you don't even know where? Most mid-sized companies track revenue and costs, yet far fewer can clearly identify which customers, products and processes truly drive contribution and which gradually erode margins over time. In this keynote, held at the Cyprus Diaspora Forum 2026 on May 7th at the AMARA Hotel in Limassol, Cyprus, Feliks Golenko, founder of MultiBase and author of the Decide framework, reveals why significant profit often remains hidden within everyday business operations. Drawing on over 3 decades of experience in data analytics and AI-driven decision systems, he demonstrates how leaders can detect small risks before they escalate, uncover overlooked growth opportunities, and make high-impact decisions with greater precision.
We heard great presentations today, great strategies, talking about investments, talking about visions and missions and taxes and AI. And what I'm going to do is show you how, if you apply some of them or one of them, what difference could that mean to your business? How you could immediately, or with simple tools, simple methods, significantly improve performance of your business. For that, first, meet Teresa. Teresa is a newly appointed head of sales of a distribution company. She started her job in January. She was actually headhunted by the CEO and owner of the company because he was impressed with her performance at her other businesses where she used to work at. And what he also wanted to do, he wanted to grow sales because in a year or so, he would like to sell his business. So Teresa is heading a team of 20 salespeople, and she is very data-driven. One of the reasons why she was so successful. Now, the first thing she did, obviously greeted her team, and then she started asking about the performance of her sales team, right? So she got the answers. Yeah, well, last year we grew 5%, which everybody was quite happy about, but the CEO wasn't, and she wasn't, because they wanted to grow. So what Teresa, as a data-driven executive, did, she went to IT, said, listen, I'd like to have some reports on how we are performing. And IT said, no, hang on, we are just migrating our ERP system. And when we are done with this, then we need to update our CRM system, so come in 6 months. That didn't help. Then she went to controlling, to her sales controller, and sales controller said, you know what, we are in year-ends close. We don't really have the time, but okay, I'll help you a bit. How about I'll give you my reports? And that's what she got. You probably saw that in several cases, right? Reports like this. You don't see forest for the trees. You don't see forest for the trees. But Teresa knew better. At her previous business, she had an analytics team who she was working with, who, with her and for her, developed really great analytics. She had complete transparency of the performance, one of the reasons why she was so successful. And then, what she decided, she had a backing of her CEO. Mind you, CEO wanted to sell the business, wanted to grow sales, and she called her analytics team back. So the analytics team started working, following the process that I'll be sharing with you in just a few minutes. Okay, so in case you want to make a phone call or go to the toilet, don't. So what they did, they started asking all kinds of questions. They started looking for signals. Now, not every question that they could answer, that the data that was provided to her could answer, was relevant. Some of them were of the category, so what? But some were very relevant. And one of the questions this team was asking was, is there a sales region where the sales in the second half of the year declined in comparison to the first half of the year. And that's what they came up with, okay? Now, maybe an untrained eye won't see that, so I made it clear for you. So what happened? From June to July, the sales has dropped by 50K. Okay, well, obviously, what is the next question? Why? Right? So, a couple of more hours, and the analytics team came with this. They were comparing the products. What they found is that this one product was not selling at all. Well, very clear signal for Teresa. Okay, I need to talk to this guy, Stephen, who was responsible for this sales region. So she calls up Stephen and says, listen, Stephen, have you noticed that your revenue has dropped from June to July by 50K? Stephen says, no, I didn't. I only started in July. And long story short, what happened was the predecessor of Stephen left the company, was let go because he was headhunted by the competition, and there was no handover. So Stephen didn't even know that he should be selling this product. Now, what happened? In 6 months, right? There was 300K revenue lost at the 20% margin company is operating at, right? That's about 60K lost margin. By the show of hands, how many of you are 100% certain that something like this is not happening in your business? I very seldom get hands up. Okay? Now, some of you may say, well, yeah, it's just 50K per month. Yeah, that's not really much. See, for the last couple of decades, I've been living in Germany, and there is a really good, interesting German saying. I learned that from German business people. It says, Kleinvieh macht auch Mist. Translated literally, even small livestock creates mess. Okay? But in this context, it basically means small improvements add up. Okay? Now, let's do math together. What that means. Let's assume that Stephen and Teresa, now, they identify the problem. Okay? Obviously, Stephen, from now on, is going to start selling this product that he was not selling anymore, right? Now, let's be generous and let's say it's going to take him about 3 months to ramp up this whole state, okay? So, for the rest of 9 months of the year, he will be selling this product. Mind you, if that wouldn't have been discovered, most probably, very likely, Stephen wouldn't be selling this product line at all, right? Now, what does that mean? Well, for the 9 months, additional recovered revenue would be about 450K, right? At the margin of 20%, that'd be 90K margin. Now we're talking money, right? But, do you remember? The business owner intends to sell his business. Now, what would this recovered EBITDA mean for the business owner at the end of the year if he were to sell this business? Okay? Would it be something to celebrate? Well, let's see. So, 90K recovered EBITDA at 10 times multiple, right? That would add up to 900K of additional value at exit. Additional. Now, experience shows that if an experienced analytics team starts analyzing this kind of data, they don't find just one thing. They find 3, 4, 5 things. Some, in this case, adding up to 500K, some 100K, some 1.5 million. So, ladies and gentlemen, altogether, what we are talking about very well could be here 3 to 4 million of additional value at exit. Now, what could business owner do with that? I mean, we just heard two gentlemen what they would have a suggestion for him what to do with this money. Okay, but maybe even if he wouldn't follow their advice, he could buy a really nice house for that. Maybe with a couple of cars, or invest in education of his children. Okay? Now, let this sink in. 3 to 4 million in additional value at exit. For what? 2 reports. That's not rocket science. It's just clever approach that I'll be sharing with you in a couple of seconds. Okay? And that's what we call return on analytics. Now let me ask you a question. How many more levers in your business have you got that would, with an initial investment of about 15 to 20K, within a couple of weeks, reveal this improvement potential? Think about it. Now, this begs the question, why don't most businesses, most mid-sized businesses, small businesses do this? Why didn't Teresa's business do that? Why don't your businesses? Why doesn't your business do that? So one of the reasons here, I'll share that, okay, in a second. One of the reasons is about 60% of you don't even know that's possible. See, we don't have many people here. They saw turn your data into profit. Didn't think it was possible. Didn't even know what is happening. They're missing out quite a bit. I hope you won't. So, in a way, what I'm doing here is crusade for reporting. Crusade for really good data analytics. Now, about 30% think it's not reachable. They're right. They were right up until recently. Because in order to do something like this, actually only big businesses could have afforded this. With big teams of specialists from architects and back-end data engineers and front-end data engineers and all kinds of things, small businesses couldn't have afforded that. But the game has completely changed. There are 2 things that have significantly changed. One is the methodology, how to approach this kind of issues. Most of the time, people get it completely wrong. What they do, you probably heard that, they build data warehouses, data lakehouse, and so on. They spend 1.5 years on collecting the data and preparing the data and so on. They then do some basic reporting, and nothing really happens. The second thing that has changed, and that is the real revolution. Some of you probably can't even hear this anymore. It's AI, okay? But AI has indeed completely changed the world of analytics. Let me tell you why. What used to take 1.5 to 2 years now takes a couple of weeks. What used to cost $500,000 now costs a fraction of it, about 50K. And what used to require a team of experts today requires one person who can deal with LLMs and agents. I've written a book on this, actually. The reasons, what has changed, how you guys can leverage from this. There were a couple of copies of the book on our booth up there, and they're not there anymore. So you guys took it. If you would like to have the copy of the book, you can get it on Amazon. But here, for this event, talk to me or talk to my partner, Nikolai. We still got a couple of copies behind the booth. Now, how does this actually then work in practice? Remember, I was telling you, Teresa's analytics team, what they did, they were following a process. And it's a 5-step process we call insight discovery. And I'm going to share this process with you right now. The first step here is actually just, quote unquote, a mindset shift. Believe, ladies and gentlemen, there is value. There are golden nuggets in your data. I've shown you that on a very simple example, okay? Your data contains very, very valuable information. That's the mindset shift. Probably the most difficult thing, most important thing. Now, then, what you should do, start exploring this data. Take a data set out of your accounting, out of your ERP system, out of your CRM system. Take the transactions of last 6 months, 12 months, whatever. Here is where AI now enters the game, and a very important one. With a well-trained bot or an agent, have AI tell you what kind of signals this data set can provide you so that you can make better decisions and take better actions faster. Have AI tell you, or experienced analytics team tell you what kind of questions can be answered that you know to ask, but probably not even know to ask, and we'll get to that. Okay? So let your data speak. Let it tell you what it can do for you. Then start validating. What does that mean? When you see what kind of signals your data can provide you, you most probably have already an idea. Ooh, how could I use this signal? See, that was the example I used before, Teresa. They were looking for a signal. Was there a decline of revenue in the second half of the year in comparison to the first half of the year? Well, when you see that, use that immediately as a use case. But your data can, in vast majority of the cases, answer the questions you don't even know you should ask, can provide you the signals you don't even know they could help you. Now, but if you do that, if you then see, okay, so this is kind of questions that my data can answer, this is kind of signals I could get, then you start thinking, oh, I could use this, and this. And usually what happens, well, at least us, when we analyze a data set, we come up with 50, 60, 70 different signals. Now, to be honest, maybe 70, 80, maybe even 90% of these signals are of the category, so what? That's fine. But even if it's just 10%, if it is just 3 or 4, that can mean pure money for you, as I've shown you in Teresa's example. Now, then the last step is, now you identified the signals that you would like to monitor, right? Or look at. You identified the questions that are to be answered. Well, go and develop very simple dashboards and reports. Use LLMs. For that, they can do it for you. So, follow this process. Follow the process, we call it insight discovery. What I like to motivate you, get started. Is it going to be very easy? No. Okay? But it's doable. Now you know why you should do it. Now you know what to do. Okay? There's another way too. Okay? Would you like to do it faster? Well, we are the ones, we've done 1,500 projects for over 400 customers in the last 35 years. And if you think that's something that is important for you or that could leverage, your business could leverage this, well, just find us here. Nicola and myself, we are here for the rest of the forum, and maybe we can have a chat if and how you could be helped. Now, at the beginning, or not at the beginning, I told you why most of the businesses don't really do that. 60% of you didn't even know that was possible. Those of you who are here, now you know. You cannot unknow this. So, not knowing is not an excuse anymore. For those who thought that was not reachable, that's not an excuse anymore either, because it is reachable. It is within the budget, it is within the time, and you don't need very specialized resources. So, Teresa and her company are doing that. Your competitors might be doing that too. Why don't you start next week? Now, for those of you who are not business owners, the business, but are aspiring business owners or executives, Teresa's business was indeed sold. Not for multiple of 10, but for multiple of 10.5. I don't know what the business owners did with the money, but guess who is the CEO, new CEO of the company? It's Teresa. With this, it was an honor and pleasure sharing this with you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for listening to Cyprus Diaspora Uncovered. Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts for more inspiring conversations that are shaping Cyprus's global future. You can also explore more episodes on our website and selected video interviews on our YouTube channels.